How's it going, guys? GA Pro here with another video, and today we're going to do a little bit of a review. But first, let me tell you guys about who will be winning a couple bags of things from my last giveaway, because they were actually unclaimed. I gave everybody that I announced last week a week to claim their prize. Two people that didn't were Whimsical.it and Raymond from YouTube, and so those two bags will actually be given away to Brandon Bonner and Adam Laubeck. So Adam will be winning bag number 5 and Brandon will be winning bag number 6. So if you guys want to know what you won, you can go ahead and check out my last video and see what it is. So with that, let's get to the review. So what I'll be reviewing today is some different tattoo products that I've tried a couple months, even since I've started. They've come out with some newer products, such as, you know, different batteries. They've come out with some motors and even some ESCs. So one of the builds that I did in the past, I decided to use both their ESCs and motors, plus regularly I usually use their battery. So the build I did that on was no other than my Schizo build, which I am calling the Blue Goddess. So I ended up going with the Tattu motors just because it was something new. They were 2305, 2450. Thought it was something nice to try. Pretty lightweight. Didn't weigh them to begin with. What I'll do is I'll grab the weight. I will take a picture and I'll post it at the end as well. Both the ESC, the batteries, and the motors themselves as well. So I also ran the ESCs as well. Haven't had any issues yet. Haven't had any burn up. I've been flying this build for 2-3 months, something like that, if I remember correctly. I was definitely happy with it. The performance, the total, pretty much the overall outcome of the whole build, it surprised me. But with that, there is going to be a couple things that I do need to discuss, because I have, you know, broken things. Breaking things tells you a lot. So first, let's talk about their batteries. Tattu makes some insanely great batteries. I have no complaints about the batteries. They may be a little bit more pricey on the market, but they have never failed me, and on top of that, they do have a great performance to them. So the two that I'm going to be talking about is, one, their 1550 HV 100Cs. And you can't see this one, but this is also a 1550. This is their 90 Phi standard LiPo. What the difference is a high volt has a little more juice, so you're standing at 4.35 at a full cell instead of 4.2. So you have 0.15 at each more cell. Definitely can help change things, especially in the top end performance of the pack. You are getting a little bit higher voltage, so you are spinning a little bit faster. The other thing is that I did notice a difference in the C ratings between the 95 to the 100C. There was a little bit of difference. That could also be because of the extra voltage from the high volt, but I didn't notice them getting hot as much, and then battery sag was definitely not as low. With the 1550s, if I remember correctly, on the 95C, when I first started, I was getting anywhere from a full battery sag for full throttle was somewhere dropping to high 13s, low 14s. Well, with the high volt version, I was actually staying up more towards the 15s, low 15s, high 14s. So definitely about a whole volt higher, way better for performance. I don't have any issues with the performance of the batteries. The only complaint I have about their batteries is just the weight. There are companies that do have 1500s that weigh a little bit less than these do, and then weight does, you know, it does affect your flight time. So the more weight you have, the less flight time alternatively you're getting. So if they could lighten their packs up a little bit, that would be sweet. Another benefit is they do give you aluminum plates in these. Aluminum plates do help. They can help protect the battery, and then on top of that, they can definitely help with swelling and then even heat distribution. Aluminum is definitely great for distributing heat. With the 1550, the 95s, I did start taping batteries. It helped a little bit. Depending on the tape you use, you could actually harm the battery. I found that out as well. I used a really stretchy athletic tape that was way too thick, and it ended up killing a cell in one of my high volts. That was only lipo battery that or Tattu owned battery that I've ever actually had a cell die in. I was kind of surprised, but I do guarantee it was due to the fact that I put too thick of a tape on there. Didn't help distribute heat. It ended up keeping it in there, again leading to the cell failure. Other than that, I mean, charge cycles, I've probably gotten maybe 100 into them, maybe. I don't think I have any more than that. I have 12, I think, 12 or 15. So when you go a day, I mean, if I ran through them all, but you never know. If you only have 2 quads, you know, 1 quad, you could break before you end. So with that, I think that's pretty much it for their batteries. The next thing I'll talk about is the ESC. I didn't really have any issues with this. I have not had any die, so I will suggest this ESC. I did have them shut off on me at one point when I was in too tall of grass, tried taking off, didn't really like it, so I did lock up and shut off. Didn't burn it up, which is definitely great. Other than that, there's not anything else I can really say. They are only BL-HELIS. Maybe they'll be coming out with some 32-bits here in the future, so you can use telemetry-based things and other things that are coming out with the 32-bit as well. So could look forward to that. They are 2 to 5S, wish they were 6S, so you could run a higher cell on there, but I mean, you get what you get. And they're also small. They're really small. They remind me a lot of the bullets, the Emax bullets, with their size. So that definitely helps for smaller shape builds as well. The last little thing I want to touch with this review will be the motors. The motors were the biggest things that I wanted to touch in this because, one, I have a few suggestions to them, and then they are a decent running motor, so I was really surprised with that, running these motors. One of the downfalls with Tattu's motors is they only sell them in a pack of 4. So, you know, when you break one, you gotta either buy all 4, or maybe some shops will, you know, split them apart, whatever, something along those lines, or even if you can get your hands on parts and stuff as well. Because I did run into a couple different issues where I was trying to communicate with the place that I work at and was gonna do that, but ended up finding out that I was gonna need to replace more than just 1 or 2, so I ended up just buying the whole set. So with that, there was a decent amount of abuse on these motors before I ended up needing to replace them, but I was still surprised at what kind of hit took them out. And the first one, where I ended up breaking my Blue Goddess frame, or Blue Goddess build, you know, the schizo frame. Broke the arm, ended up denting one of the motor bells, dropping several magnets out, show you those in a second, and then ended up locking up 2 other motors as well. So I ended up replacing 2 of the motors and then switching bearings out in the 3rd, which gives me 2 good motors still out of the 4-pack, so I do still have some spares. And then I recently was flying it and had an issue with disorientation. Just and then I had this really weird situation where I don't know if the motor screw fell out, got snagged by something, but it literally ripped itself from the threads and then peeled the motor skirting up, cracking it. Kind of the first time I've seen something like this, not seen them with any other brands. Might just be the way they design the skirting, because it is, you know, pretty trimmed down and not very supportive at all. So with that, let me show you some of the motors that I've destroyed. So the one that I dropped several of the magnets out of, let's see if I can find them, was this one right here, which, if you guys haven't played with motor bells, if they're trashed, you can definitely use them as tops. Kind of a little funny thing, but you can sit there and spin them, they're kind of cool. But here, let me focus in on this. We're in focus. So this guy right here, I ended up dropping 4 whole magnets plus crushing 2 magnets. And the reason being is because that is right where the ball on top of that fence post decided to hit. And it ended up crushing the bell. And one of my suggestions to fixing this type of situation would be actually adding some support spokes. You know, 3 more support spokes. Let's make it a 6-spoke versus a 3-spoke. It'll add some weight, but it would also help the longevity, because that's right where, if one of those were there, it would have stopped that. That wouldn't have collapsed as much as it did. Maybe a little bit, which might have caused a tight spot, but it would still probably be running. The second big thing that happened was on the stator side, the skirting. So right here, I think the motor screw tried to take the bell with it, or the stator, and when it left, it was very angry. It was very angry. So definitely not usable. I was fortunate that out of a couple of them that I got some usables, but still ran into an issue where there was one where, again, maybe a support might not have helped, but it ended up, this was another one that died in the fence crash. So what had happened is it probably got nicked by the fence post right here, ended up causing a flat spot in the bell, and now it's got a flat spot off the stator. So I haven't really tried it on another stator that's available to see if it'll work. It may be that the flat spot's not a big deal, and out of the 3 though, I ended up fixing one of them. So I do have another working one. And then the other biggest issue with them was the bearings. Within one crash, or you know, even just a bounce off the ground, something minor that wouldn't necessarily end your day, you could notice that the bearings took that abuse very seriously. And maybe this is the size of the bearing. I didn't measure it. I can definitely leave the sizes in the comments, but I am for sure that it's just because the balls themselves are pretty small. So with the weight of this bell being tweaked, it definitely would make sense that it's going to put a flat spot in one of those round balls, making it hard to spin. And then the other one big thing that is cool about this motor that doesn't utilize because of the materials that it's made of is the fact that it has a titanium shaft. It does have a titanium shaft. I've had to take a couple of them apart. In doing so, I literally just grabbed a pair of pliers and literally just pulled them off after pulling out the C-clip, and didn't leave any marks on the threads, period. So these shafts really shouldn't bend. They're literally going to kill the bearing before they bend. So definitely should either use a little bit bigger of a bearing, or should lighten, maybe even thin the rod a tiny bit. They could thin the rod on the stator side just to get a little bit more ball size in there, to make it so that it impacts, it won't round as easily. So with that would be my only suggestion. With that would be my last little tidbit on Tattu stuff. They haven't made anything else. I don't really have any other smaller batteries. I wish I had. You know, I'm going to build some 4-inch stuff, so I'll definitely be able to try those in the future. It's going to be a fun road ahead of us, but until then I won't be able to have any of that information. So a recap, definitely try some of Tattu stuff. They do make some great things, just need some improvements, but who doesn't? This is definitely a growing community. With that, the only other thing is Brandon and Adam, get a hold of me. I'll get you guys your stuff you want. And then with that, hope you liked my review, and I'll see you guys next week.